Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Divorce Happens, the podcast where we support you before, during, and after divorce with education, inspiration, a little bit of laughter, as you heard, because as you know, divorce happens and then you start fresh. And I'm here with one of our Fresh Starts experts, Holly Martins. Holly, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Hello. Yes, I am a real estate agent in New Jersey, and I'm also divorced.
We love that here. A lot of our experts are actually divorced, which is why they are so passionate about what they do here at Fresh Starts. So, when Holly and I were talking about what we should talk about today to help you on this episode of Divorce Happens, as both women who have been divorced and who have had interesting living situations, we wanted to dive into a very common thing that happens that I think people don't talk about a lot, which is when you decide to separate, you actually have to often continue living with that person
Yeah.
for a while. So I lived with my ex for about 3 months, and during that process, he was looking for an apartment to move out. He moved to a different state, and I stayed in the marital residence, and it was a lot of stress, and as you can understand, a lot of having to figure out new boundaries. And so, Holly, I would love to ask you, as a realtor, that you one of your niches is divorce and supporting people through divorce, which we love. Like, how often do you see this happen when people have to like remain living together because there's nowhere else to go? And then, like, how the fuck do you get through that? and then, and then, why is it so important then, like, while you're going through that, to hire a realtor to figure out the next steps who really understands what's going on? So, how do we get through this, Holly?
So it's super fun, as you know and can
Yeah.
imagine. The weird thing about divorce, especially when you own real estate, is that the real estate becomes the biggest asset that you fight over. So nobody wants to vacate the marital home because they want to set a precedent that that's their residence and that they can hold claim to it. So we've got this really tenuous situation where two people who've already agreed that they don't want to be together anymore and are in the process of
Hmm.
decoupling still have to live in the same house. And it's kind of like really bad reality TV that you don't want to participate in.
Yeah.
So, and you know this because you walk down that road.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm thinking back. I'm like, even things like navigating like who sleeps where and
Mhm.
like who's home and I came from divorced parents too, and I remember even that was tricky. And it's like
Yeah.
navigating those spaces is so hard.
Exactly. Like even like being able to get through the morning routine. Like
Yeah.
who's making the coffee? Who's
Ugh,
cleaning up? Those
yeah.
little things that used to be just part of your groove become very territorial,
Yeah.
problematic
Whose food is what?
situations
I mean,
every day.
like, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Anyway,
not
so
fun.
yes. So what do we do, Holly? Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is we're going to be as patient and level-headed as possible because this is a long play, right?
Yeah.
Like this is not a rapid disintegration. And I always tell my clients when we're dealing with selling their marital home is like you have to be able to play nicely in the sandbox here, especially if there are kids involved, because again, like this is the kids' home environment,
Yeah.
and when you cultivate a stressful environment for yourselves, you're by proxy cultivating a stressful one for your kids, and like they don't need that. So it's hard. I'm a mom too. It's very
Yeah.
hard to do that, but like we have to take the high road. So always take the high road. Remember that the end goal is for you guys to divorce, but
Mhm.
you're still going to have to do it nicely. So really try not to be petty. I've seen some crazy things. I've heard some crazy stories. Like we're going to try to just be as nice as possible. When you are hiring a real estate agent, it's also really important that you both have equal trust in that person. Think about it this way: you have one
Mm.
individual who is a figurehead for representing the sale of your home, and again, your biggest asset.
Yep.
If one person feels like that realtor has skewed interests or that they're siding with one person in the couple, it's
Yeah.
not going to go well.
Yeah.
That real estate agent really has to be able to convey that they are a neutral third party and that they
Yeah.
are there to give expert advice and guidance. I've actually lost listings to agents who played up one side over another. And
Mm.
I've said to people like I don't even want to meet with one person. I want to meet with both of you at
Right.
the same time because we have to really maintain and uphold that neutrality.
Yeah.
Um So when you're shopping for an agent, if you're getting to the point where you both need to agree on selling the house, like make sure that you're both comfortable working with that person. And that ideally, that individual, if they haven't had the intimate experience of being divorced, like they should at least understand the emotional, the psychological, the financial implications that that process has, because
Yeah.
it is very intimate and it's really difficult to deal with. So you kind of need to go in with an advanced skill set on those
Mm.
appointments.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about this. I feel like there's a lot of realtors out there, right? And most, people may know a realtor in your life, maybe
Hmm.
your sister or your best friend or your cousin. And it's not a good idea to hire that person, probably, right?
No, not in this situation.
Yeah. So, like, what's a nice thing you could say to the person in your life, right? Who's a realtor who might be like, I'll help you guys.
Right.
What could you say to them to have them understand like that is not the best fit for this
Yeah,
situation?
and if it were normal circumstances, like you're not getting divorced,
Right.
then by all means, hire the person who is going to best take care of you,
Yeah.
and if that's a friend or a family member, go for it. We
Right.
we do really operate within our sphere of people who we know. But
Mhm.
when you're dealing with more complicated situations, whether it's a foreclosure or an
Yeah.
estate or a divorce, you need that extra skill set.
Mm,
And if somebody doesn't have familiarity with those, then it's just not an appropriate hire. And you can
yeah.
gently say to them, like, hey, I love you and this has nothing to do with you, but we
Yeah.
really have to go by the advice that we were given, whether it's from our attorneys
Yeah,
or
or
from
whoever.
whatever other
Yeah.
counsel, to make sure that whoever we hire is impartial.
Yeah. And I do want to stress, like, I think it is important to work with somebody like you. And we have other realtors at Fresh Starts all over the country who really do have experience with divorce, because it is a different situation. And you're not just working with the regular lawyers, you're working with divorce lawyers,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
what like for anybody that's listening that's like, what the hell is she talking about? Like what does that, like, you know what I'm talking about, Holly? So what does that mean, like, typically in a house buying selling situation, you have a real estate lawyer, right, that helps
Right.
finish the contract. But when you're working in a divorce situation, how does that change the legal aspect?
So you just have more people to answer to.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, the attorney who is representing the parties in the divorce, or the attorneys who are representing the parties
Yeah.
in divorce, are not the ones who are handling the sale of the real estate. There are separate attorneys for that. So if you, the divorcing couple, are thinking about selling your house, you have to find a real estate agent who is going to represent you. You also have to
Yeah.
find an attorney who's going to jointly
Yeah.
represent the two of you. And then that attorney is usually working in conjunction with the divorce attorneys.
Right.
And I normally, or the real estate agent normally, also has to respond back to the divorce attorneys to give
Right.
progress reports on
Right.
things. And this is really where the contentious divorces become extremely problematic,
Mhm.
because we have so many different people to answer to. And when we have multiple attorneys involved, it gets much more complicated. So when the sellers are able to maintain like clear heads and work
Yeah.
jointly toward that goal,
Yeah.
it makes the whole thing much less chaotic.
It's so much. It's so much. I will say this. I know we just covered like a million topics in 10 minutes. If anybody's listening to this and they would like us to dig into something further, or they have
Hmm.
questions, like, leave a comment, reach out, because we will come back and address whatever questions you have for sure. Cause, again, this is one of those things that, like, people do it, but then they don't really talk about it
Yeah.
afterwards. And so you don't really get the experience from, your friends and family. But what was it like to get divorced and have to sell your house at the
Hmm.
same time and go through in every single fresh start at one time? So please reach out if you have any questions or would like us to talk about anything else. Holly, where do you work if people would like to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm in northern New Jersey, so generally speaking, from the waistband of the state up. But my primary regions are Essex, Morris, Bergen, and Passaic counties.
Amazing. And you can, of course, find Holly at Fresh Starts Registry in the expert guide. And her link will be in the show notes for this episode as well. Holly, before we let you go, and I'm very curious on your thoughts on this, if somebody's listening to this and they're going through a divorce, which most likely they are, what would be some words of encouragement that you could leave them with?
The thing that I had to remind myself, and the thing that I'm now reminding other friends who are going through divorce, is that it gets better. Like this tumultuous, scary, stressful part is temporary, And it's also a beautiful opportunity for you to grow, to learn about yourself, to learn how to advocate for yourself and become a more whole person. And that was very
Mhm.
much my own journey.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's definitely a silver lining to it. And I do believe that's why I love this program so much. Like Fresh
Oh,
Starts is amazing because it really
yeah.
is a
Yeah.
fresh start. Like
It
it
is.
gets better and it
Yeah.
is transformative.
Yeah.
So don't lose hope. It
I
gets
love
better.
that. I love that. I totally agree. It gets better, and you have so many people here to support
Hmm.
you. So reach out to anybody at Fresh Starts. And if you are in New Jersey and you're getting divorced or not getting divorced and you'd like to move, we adore Holly. We're so happy that you're part of the Fresh Starts community.
Me too.
Thanks, Holly. Yeah, and if you have any questions, leave it in the comments or reach out because there's so much to say, and this conversation is ongoing. Thanks so much for being
Yes.
here, Holly.
Thanks for having me. It was so nice to see you again.
Nice to see you always.